Check 1, 2.
People think I'm riding high, but I feel so low. I try to be a good man. Life keeps beating me down.
It is a beautiful October 30th, 2025, a crisp, cool day here in Dallas, Texas. I can't really classify it as a cold day, mainly for the fact that if I call anything in the state of Texas that's cold, to us, it might be even like the high of like 60, which I know everyone that is a Big Ten fan might have just laughed in my face around that. Listen, guys, I'm not used to the cold weather. I've lived in the state of Texas my entire life, so I'm not expecting any kind of realism when talking about what does cold truly mean. But what it means to me, at least, is it's football season. It's been football season. It's crazy to think how quickly the month of September and October have gone by. We're about to be in the thick of the NFL season and then the home stretch of the regular season for college football. Make sure you're enjoying it. Make sure you are spending the adequate time, because think of the moments in the dog days of summer when the heat is beating down and you just want the comfort of staying inside when it's cold out. Maybe you got some hot chocolate and you're watching Monday, Thursday night football, or maybe even a little bit of Friday college football, which has grown to be one of the more interesting parts of the week, is whenever you get a little bit of the chaos every Friday. We have a jam-packed show for you. Let's get the intro out of the way. Let's get loose. Let's get a little more energy in the room. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host. This is a college football show, nothing but college football every single week. We are here Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday to provide all the college football content you want in the world. And this is all powered by Kretschmann Media, who do fantastic work across the board. If you like NBA, if you like NFL, if you like any kind of sport, even boxing, I promise you, go to our channels tab on my page and you can find exactly what you're looking for. It won't be hard. We have a jam-packed show for you. We got a game preview for Tennessee and Oklahoma, Cincinnati traveling to Utah. We have my SEC tier list, which we got a fancy little graphic ready for you. But we also have to talk about what has been going on with LSU. And I think that is the best way to start today's show. Quick little water break for the editor to know exactly when to cut this. I'm making sure to make their lives easier, because that is what I try to do around here, is make y'all's life a little bit easier with some more college football content, but also some of the people that do fantastic work to get this content out. Are you ready? I'm ready. Gotta get loose. I'm hyped for today's show. I was really excited for today's show. I fear LSU is broken. I think Texas A&M, what they did in Death Valley, broke LSU. It's one thing to have LSU fans, have the coping mechanism of thanking Texas A&M fans for being the vessel that fired Brian Kelly. Completely get that. I wouldn't love watching my fan base have to deal with another fan base doing their traditions in your stadium, a beloved stadium, a stadium that is seen as one of the most difficult stadiums to play college football in, especially at night. Some people would say the most difficult. And then have my coach fired in the middle of the season that was projected to be a national championship level season. So, of course, if you want to have that coping mechanism, if you're an LSU fan, I completely get that. And this is a channel that fully believes this LSU job is top 3. I think it is a top 3 job in all of college football. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. It has everything you are looking for. It's got the historic pedigree of winning championships and the expectations, but you also have the NIL, the facilities, the hotbed of recruiting that is Louisiana, while being right next door to a bunch of different recruiting hotbeds, Dallas, Houston. I mean, not geographically the closest in the world, but in the world of college football nowadays, that can help. We're looking at a fantastic job that is getting torn down by its own governor. Now, if you have not been following this LSU coaching search, maybe you've put it on the back burner. You want to go focus on the games that are actually being played, and you're not expecting any kind of a decision to happen over the next couple months. I don't blame you. But LSU is almost shooting themselves in the foot with this coaching search. Now, this is not a politics channel. This is not something to talk about, Governor Jeff Landry. I don't live in the state of Louisiana. I don't know what he has done to impact Louisiana faithful. But what he has been talking about, because LSU currently does not have a president. They do not have a president at their university, and this presents a unique circumstance. Almost very familiar. It reminds me a lot, I believe, of the Hornets when the NBA had to be the owner of the Hornets for a little bit. If you think of the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers getting vetoed by the NBA, that kind of situation. So the governor is super involved in this. Now, he wasn't the one executing the firing. I think that was the board of directors making that decision. But Jeff Landry recently came onto a press conference after being asked around the LSU coaching search. And I promise you, if you have 5 minutes of your day, it won't be hard to find. Go watch that entire clip. And if there's any part of you that says, how is this not AI? You and I shared the same exact feelings. This is a wild press conference to see a governor be so emphatic about some of the things that are going to be decided for LSU, and more specifically with the athletic director, Scott Woodward, who, for all intents and purposes, has made some major blunders in terms of hires in his career. If you don't know about the athletic director of Scott Woodward, he's made 2 of the 3 largest hires that turned into 2 of the 3 largest buyouts. It's remarkable to be able to pull that off. He hired Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, which you may tell me, and it's completely right to say this, he didn't give the extension that would lead to the $70 million buyout for Texas A&M. You're not wrong in that. By then, he was already at LSU when LSU was making their next coaching hire. He did, in fact, though, call up his old buddy Jimbo. At the time, LSU was a better job than Texas A&M, and you could probably argue it now. And that led to Texas A&M giving that extension. He also hired Brian Kelly because he had to hire someone at the end of the day. And then Brian Kelly just got bought out for $50 million. And those two are now right there with James Franklin, who is in third for the largest buyouts in college football history. So Governor Jeff Landry decided, yeah, he's not going to make this decision. I don't care what they got to do. I don't care if you got to fire him. At the time of recording this, there's reports that he is pushing LSU to fire Scott Woodward, and understandably so. I mean, it's not the governor's job to make a football-related decision. He's got to do what's best for the state of Louisiana. So he talks a lot about how a bunch of money's going to waste. Like, we need some set guidelines and parameters around, coaches to hit certain metrics and all these different things. I mean, he is rambling on for 3 to 5 minutes, just digging into Scott Woodward and the decision to fire Brian Kelly. Not that he's against it, but the money that's involved and how this is going to be just such a waste that we have to spend this buyout. And he is just chirping along, talking about how Scott Woodward will not be a part of this decision. It's going to be the board of directors. He's not going to make the decision. Someone else is, but it's definitely not going to be Scott Woodward. And you're just sitting there going, what is LSU doing? Someone get them a president, because my gracious, what are we doing here? If you do not understand how crazy some of this, some of these quotes are being said, it's not for the fact that they're being said, it's for the fact that they're being said publicly. And think about it like this. If you are to hire an athletic director, his job is to manage the athletic department in conjunction with the president. If the president's not there, then he's supposed to more than likely be involved with the governor, clearly. And you are telling your athletic director to not do his job. His job is to manage the hiring process across the athletic department. You are saying you are not going to do the job in the most revenue producing sport. Just fire the guy. Because logically, if you guys make a hire, say, for example, for the sake of argument, and we'll talk about Lane Kiffin in a second, say you hire John Summerall out of Tulane. Mind you, the governor makes it very clear, I'm not going to be involved with this because he would be then selecting a Louisiana head coach, because New Orleans, Tulane right there, to go to Baton Rouge. That seems like a conflict of interest to me. But say they hire John Summerall, and he has to work in conjunction with an athletic director that didn't choose him. A guy that didn't choose you. Like, it's the same thing when we talk about the NFL. When a new regime comes into the front office and they have a young quarterback that they did not draft, they do not have any allegiance or ties to have to stick with that guy. You see where the problem really begins when you don't have the alignment. And LSU fans themselves are saying, stop talking. Because at the end of the day, when you are talking about a guy like Lane Kiffin, who is comparing Apple A, which is the Ole Miss job, stick there, which I think is more likely than people really want to talk about. He could go to the Florida job, which is a fantastic top 5, top 10 job in all of college football. They seem like they have much more alignment than the best job on paper, but LSU doesn't have the alignment. And that's part of the issue here, where if you don't have the alignment, I can't feel confident as a coach to go there, regardless of what the resources are. And there's other jobs that are going to provide the same amount of resources in the same conference. This LSU coaching search is off to a wild start. And I'm so interested to see how it goes. I could see them going for Lane Kiffin. I could see them going for Marcus Freeman. I could see them going for Clark Lee. I could see them going for John Gruden. There is a long list of guys that could be in the decision-making process, but the decision-making process is so new and weird. Every name is on the table, and I cannot wait to see it. I've talked so much about this LSU coaching job, guys. We've done so much work on this LSU coaching job, and I didn't really want to talk about it again, but with what was said, I'm sitting there going, how could you not talk about this, truly? So we have a game preview to talk about. This is an SEC playoff elimination game. We have the Tennessee Volunteers, number 14 team in the nation, at a smooth 6-2 record, hosting Oklahoma, the number 18 team in the nation, also with a 6-2 record. We have Oklahoma with losses to Texas, losses to Ole Miss, and then you have Tennessee with losses to Georgia and Bama. Quality losses across the board. I think the worst one there is Texas for Oklahoma in a rivalry spot to which John Mateer was, 17 days from a hand surgery, and clearly he has not bounced back, so we need to talk about that. It's important to note, this is, if you were to make a prediction on this game, and it will heavily impact mine, this is a blackout game. And if you have not seen a Tennessee hype package for their blackout uniforms, last year it was a treat. I believe they did like a Venom thing. It was incredible work. If you guys do not know my background, I have extensive background in college marketing and the social media side of the game and the back end side of things. It was remarkable what they pulled off. And this year, same level. Like Tennessee, whenever it's their blackout game, it's incredible. This will also be Oklahoma's first time back in Knoxville since Baker Mayfield's coming out party. If you do not remember that game, that was in 2015, double overtime. It was really the arrival of Baker Mayfield. And if you don't believe Josh Heupel really wants this one, former Oklahoma offensive coordinator, former Oklahoma player, last year travels to Oklahoma, his homecoming, gets the win with Nico Iamaleava. It's the Jackson Arnold gets benched game. Real weird, like one of those games that College Game Day went to, and you kind of get into that third quarter and it's like, is this a snooze fest? Is this ugly? Like, am I really having fun watching this? Because this is just two bad quarterbacks playing head to head versus two very good defenses. I think this is the game that Josh Heupel really takes the nice knife and twists it, if that makes sense. But this is the classic case of bad offense versus bad defense and good offense versus good defense. And if you don't know the teams I'm talking about. Tennessee obviously has the good offense, and then Oklahoma's good defense, and vice versa. So the question really becomes, or the list of questions really become, do you believe that John Mateer and this Oklahoma offense find a way to bounce back in this game? Do you believe that this is the game that happens against this Tennessee defense on the road? And then how much do you believe in Joey Aguilar? You know, I think Joey Aguilar is underrated in terms of a quarterback in the SEC. I think he's undervalued by most people. But there's a lot of people that also probably think he's turnover prone and overrated. So, you know, if you're lower on him, you think the Oklahoma defense is going to do what they do, and you believe this Oklahoma offense can find a way against a very bad Tennessee defense, although it's on the road. At the end of the day, if there's a defense to get right, it's this Tennessee defense at this point. How you feel about those two questions, I think, should dictate your prediction. And if I'm to answer these questions, if I was to really understand, you know, where do I lean? Every single question that I ask about this matchup, I start to lean more and more towards Tennessee. Last weekend was the perfect opportunity for Oklahoma to get right. You're at home. Is Ole Miss's defense much better than Tennessee's? Absolutely. But you are at home. They're coming off of a long battle against Georgia, and they had a great opportunity to potentially exploit the rushing defense for Ole Miss. And I think they just don't have it. I mean, the identity right now is John Mateer. It was like that early in the season. He has the injury, and with these hand injuries, it's not something that, you know, just because if I had rested it, say 3 weeks, and I know by the third week my hand's going to be 100%, it's not a case that, okay, I could play on it and maybe my timelines get extended to 6 weeks, and by the end of the 6 weeks, it's going to be completely fine. I don't know if this hand's going to get right until we hit the off season. And I don't know if I can have this blind faith that sooner or later this Oklahoma offense is just going to be able to figure it out. I like Isaiah Satania, Deion Burks, all of these guys versus the Tennessee defense that gives up a ton of broken tackles in this game. I do think Oklahoma, for spurts in this game, are going to get theirs, because I think the broken tackles and the ability in the short game is exactly what they found some success in early or late into that Ole Miss game, and they kind of faded away from it as the game went on, which was really confusing. But if they were to take those nuggets, I think that they could replicate it against the Tennessee defense and find some success. It's the consistency, because I do believe, to answer the second question, that Josh Heupel, Joey Aguilar, and the receivers on the outside are going to be able to find success. We see these really good offensive minds do find some success against a Venables defense. And it's not to say that they won't have their moments and maybe Joey Aguilar puts it into harm's way, but it's really starting to stack up. How many times do I believe the Tennessee offense is going to find some points, and how many times do I think the Oklahoma offense is going to find its way, versus the two matchups that are both, one's really difficult and one's really easy for the other one? And I lean towards Tennessee, especially with it being at home, especially with it being their blackout game. It is going to be an insane environment. And I believe Oklahoma has talent across the board, but I just don't believe that they're going to be able to get that identity right. I'm going to pick Tennessee in this game. I think Oklahoma is going to be a closer to 8-4 program. Something that has worried me was that this is a program that peaked too early, and that could be easily accounted for the injury. It could. But at the end of the day, if we get to the end of 2025 and we look back, they probably peaked early. I think Tennessee is a flawed team. We'll talk about them in the SEC tier list, but I'm going to pick Tennessee to win, and I'm going to pick them to cover. We have one more game preview to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. If it is your first time seeing this beautiful mustache on the Stadium Pulse, my name is Tegan Randolph, a host for the most. We are live every 5:30 Central Time, Tuesday and Thursday, and then 2:30 on Sunday for the reaction show. If you are at this point in the show, maybe you're rewatching it, I will only ask one thing from you. I got to get it out of the way. Like any other content creator, a subscribe would be much appreciated. It's just a big red button. It keeps the channel going. I want this to become something one day to where I'm more asking for, you know, just a like in the live chat to just talk and interact with. We're not at that point. but that doesn't mean the goal changes. We're just going to keep going until you guys start popping up in the chat. And then I'm going to make sure I keep giving you guys my best shot every single time. Cincinnati will travel to Utah. Utah has been a team that has two major national opportunities. What do I mean by that? I just mean games that actually will get the media attention. We think of the game against Texas Tech. Big noon kickoff was there, if my memory is serving me correctly. And we saw what happened against Texas Tech. Backup quarterback comes in. Morden goes to Will Hammond. I hope Will Hammond's getting better as he's going to be out for the season. And Texas Tech, it just got to a breaking point in that game where they just took the ball and ran with it. And then Utah just kind of is chugging along. Then we have the Holy War. Big noon kickoff arrives then, and they lose on the road against BYU. And I think the national perception of Utah right now is a team that is good. I think they're living off the merit of the Pac-12. Kyle Whittingham is a fine coach. Devin Dampier's not that good. Defense is going to be fine, but like nothing special. And if you were to go look at the power ratings, which more details of how maybe a betting market would value what was their rating versus ranking situation, regardless of what their overall record is, you'd be surprised by how high Utah is. There's some power ratings out there that have them above Texas Tech. Why is this? Well, I think it's for a couple of different reasons. I do think a lot of the things if you were to go back on the channel and we're looking at the preview for Utah and Texas Tech, where I believe I picked Utah, a lot of the different factors that I talked about, I think are applicable in this game against the darling of the Big 12 this season, which is Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby. We'll talk about them in a moment. But with Utah on the road, most underrated home environment in the country, there's always a reminder of how good the Utah home environment is. And I think this could be a situation where it's late, it's 9:15 kickoff my time. I believe it's going to be a 10:15 kickoff for them, and Cincinnati's going to be traveling across then. Could be just a late night body type of game for Cincinnati. And you're going into a tough environment. Don't look at the attendance numbers. Look at the actual decibel that is going on the field. It's ridiculous. You have Devin Dampier back at quarterback. Do I think he's just this big playmaker that I thought he potentially could be a plug and play guy? But I do think the continuity with the OC and Dampier plus the offensive line, these are still ingredients that are there that could build up a competent offense. But I really go and look at the defense. And I think the defense is going to run a ton of man coverage. They're one of the best passing defenses in the entire country. And I think in that night environment, that's going to present a lot of challenges for Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby has become this quarterback darling for a lot of people, especially online. I mean, I've seen him back in first round pick in the NFL draft. We have people online saying that he should be a Heisman candidate. And frankly, if he goes and finds a win on the road against Utah, you probably can put him into these conversations. We're talking 20 passing touchdowns, I believe 1 interception, 7 rushing touchdowns. He has absolutely revived Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been a team that has just continued to rise up the ranks. They play very sound football. They got some interesting weapons on the outside, but it's really the Brendan Sorsby show. And I look back and I think of, what was the last real man coverage team that I can remember in this Cincinnati defense? Because I think, or the Cincinnati offense has faced, because I think this is going to be the most difficult defensive test that they face. You could maybe argue BYU on the road. I understand that. But I think of Nebraska to start the year. Nebraska runs a ton of man coverage, and you saw Sorsby running all over the field, but they were only able to put up 17 points. I begin to question the outside a little bit for Cincinnati. Now, you could make the fair argument that's week 1. That's the first game of the year. Not everything's going to be as sound as what we're talking about as we're in November. And maybe they can win on the outside a little bit more. Sorsby is a little bit more confident throwing the football. But what's gotten me into a little bit of a mental hurdle is the point spread. The point spread is 7.5, and it could be 8.5. I've seen it as high as 9.5 on some books towards Utah. And a lot of people are going to instantly react to that and say, how is Cincinnati, this team that has all the momentum in the world? And every time I've watched Utah, because I guarantee you probably haven't been watching Utah every single week, how is this team that I see every time they're on this national spotlight, lose a game. And then I go look over here in Cincinnati, the couple games I've watched them, yeah, maybe they had a valiant effort against Nebraska, but this team is fun. I'm watching Sorsby throw the ball all around. How is this a 7.5, a touchdown plus spread? And I think it goes to a lot of the points I'm talking about. If Sorsby's legs is the only thing that's moving this offense, I do not feel confident about them putting enough points on the road. I think this is going to be a physical matchup. I think this is the game that we could definitely see the same kind of break that we saw Texas Tech do to Utah, where the physicality of this offensive line and some of the playmakers and the defense, who is a very stout defense, just breaks Cincinnati late into this game, and they slowly but surely pull away. A game that feels like 10 points actually feels like 30. That type of ball game, that you know what I'm talking about, right? So I think when we're looking at this game, I'm picking Utah to win. Now, this will be the last time I pick Utah. If they lose this game, I'm out on Kyle Whittingham. I'm out on this team. Kyle Whittingham, legendary head coach, great ball coach. I'm not here to deny that. I'm more looking at the facts of I can't keep doing this with them. I can't have this blind faith of this underrated home environment, the OC head coach and the quarterback pairing all having the synergy that you're looking for, the point spreads on my side. It feels wrong to go against the popular kid in class, but I got to go with what I know and what I trust, and what I trust is Utah football, baby. So I'm going with Utah to win. I wouldn't pick them to cover, but I think that they find a way to win regardless. So that's who I'm going to pick for this matchup. We got an SEC tier list, baby. We're coming up on 30 minutes. We try to do usually just a tight 30, but guys, I got an SEC tier list to talk about. As we go into November, now is a perfect time to really get a grasp of the SEC. Frankly, we should be doing this for the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12, because as we begin to narrow down the list of the top 12 teams, throw in the group of 5 as well in there as they get an automatic bid, to really understand who are the real contenders, who are potentially firing their head coaches, who's really going to be in the mix when we get to the end of this month and beyond. And so I thought now would be a great time to do an SEC tier list. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Stadium Pulse SEC tier list. Hey, listen, I'm not a graphic designer. I'm telling you this right now. But if there's any misspellings, it's not my fault. And if this is not as good as I think it looks, it's not my fault either. I think this is a pretty good list. So let's work from the bottom up when talking about this SEC tier list. At the bottom of the list, the worst team in the SEC, it's the team that's waiting for basketball. It's the team that's waiting to talk about literally any other sport. It's the team that quite literally cannot buy out Mark Stoops. This is an actual clause in his contract. Kentucky cannot buy out Mark Stoops if they don't pay, I believe, 75% of his entire salary in the contract within, I think, 60 days. It could be even a shorter timeline than that. That is whoever's agent, probably Jimmy Sexton, did that remarkable work. Applauds all around. But we don't have to spend too much time talking about Kentucky. The upset bid teams. These are the teams that Bobby Petrino in Arkansas, South Carolina, Lenore Sellers, Mississippi State. These are teams that will find ways to lose, but you will be in a dogfight with them if you let them. We think of Arkansas with Texas A&M. Honestly, Arkansas over the past couple of weeks with Bobby Petrino, they will find ways to lose, but this is also a team that will be in the hunt because of the talent. The offense can score virtually against anybody not named Notre Dame. South Carolina, very similar. We just got done with Cocktober, so maybe they should be dropped out of this list, but this is a South Carolina team that continues to just find ways to keep themselves disappointed. Going into the season, they were seen as a top 15 team in the country. Now they're not even being talked about. Now, to me, I wish I could have told you so. Oh, wait, I did. South Carolina was not going to be a good team this year. They do not have the talent level from the top down or from the top to the bottom that can match up with these other SEC teams. Just because you have Lenore Sellers and a track athlete on the outside doesn't mean you are going to win the SEC. South Carolina would have needed a Cam Newton level type of carry job if they wanted to compete for an SEC title game. I tried to warn you guys. This team was not going to be one to take 110% serious. And I'm only being this, I guess, it's not even passive aggressive about it, is they were one of the loudest fan bases to chirp at me when I made the prediction. Mississippi State, it's one of those things, man, where you're just like, please pull off the upset. I mean, last 17 points versus Texas, you had a 17-point lead and you couldn't get the job done. Like I said, these are teams that find ways to lose. In the talented but no head coach tier, we actually have a team that does have a head coach in Auburn, but I really do feel like Auburn is looking for a reason. Auburn is truly looking at it as what you do against Alabama to finish the year. If you are the head coach there, who knows? Maybe they bring back Cadillac Williams to be their head coach at home. If you do not perform there, you're out. I think it's a team looking for a reason. If you want to say it's unfair to have them in that tier, it's my tier list. I really don't care. Florida, obviously, a ton of talent there. Maybe this is the perfect team to, give a little call. Say, hey, DJ, hey, Dallas, what do you think about the transfer portal? What's your number? A couple of things like that. LSU, we've talked about Brian Kelly ad nauseum. If you want to hear my thoughts about it, just go check out the other episodes. We know LSU, a ton of talent on that roster, and we'll be very curious on who they end up hiring. Just remember, it's not going to be the athletic director, Scott Woodward. Inconsistent / flawed. I think all of these teams could very easily be in the college football playoff. I think these 4 teams all have their definitive strengths and very definitive weaknesses. Texas, the offense. Oklahoma, the offense. Tennessee, the defense. Missouri, health at the quarterback position, and some of the inconsistencies on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think any of them are officially eliminated. Texas could go beat Vanderbilt, Georgia, and A&M to finish the year, and they will be in the college football playoff. Oklahoma can go beat Tennessee and their murder's row to finish the year. Tennessee, same thing there. They finished the year against Vanderbilt. That could be a play-in team or a play-in game for the college football playoff. And Missouri, if they pull off a huge upset against Texas A&M with a true freshman quarterback and they go finish out, they could probably backdoor their way into a college football playoff spot. But all of these teams have very definitive flaws that I think I can definitively say, I don't know how many times I'm going to say definitive, but I think I can confidently say all of those flaws are going to be what keeps them out of the college football playoff because of the next tier. Here are the 3 teams that I think are college football playoff at-large contenders. And obviously, if we were to go one higher, whoever's going to be the 3rd place team, because I think the top 2 are going to make to Atlanta. Georgia, if they just played like they did in the 4th quarter, if Georgia would just ignore what they do in the first 3 quarters and keep it close in the 4th, you're going to lose that football game because they turn into 2022 Georgia all of a sudden. I don't know what it is about this team in slow starts, but you get a guy like Gunnar Stockton and their entire offense just begins to click. They do feel like a team that has a crazy high ceiling and has not played their best football up to this point. They play Florida in Jacksonville, fully expecting that might be the best version of a Kirby Smart team that we've seen this year. Ole Miss obviously has surpassed my expectations tenfold. I'm done doubting Lane Kiffin. And frankly, I could easily see them making it to Atlanta. They have such a clear and easy path to get to the college football playoff. If they find a way to not make it, I don't know how. I genuinely do not know how they could fumble this. Vanderbilt, very similar. If they were to go lose to Texas, I still think that they have a very clear, path to get to the college football playoff. They would just probably have to beat, no, not probably. They would have to beat Tennessee to finish the year, but the Vanderbilt beating Texas would do wonders for them. Although Texas right now in that inconsistent tier, I think they are in the most desperate position. If you want to go see the breakdown for the Texas Vanderbilt game, it will be on the channel. Now, the national championship contenders. I have Alabama and Texas A&M. I think Alabama right now, to me, is the best team in the SEC, but I don't think it is a clear gap between them and Texas A&M. I think if these 2 teams faced off, it would be a rock fight, to be honest. We're talking about two teams that have very conflicting styles, very conflicting ways to win. Both of them have very good defenses. Alabama can't run the ball. You have this explosive yet not super consistent kind of volatile offense with Texas A&M, a defense with Alabama that is super talented, but I don't think would match up well against a Texas A&M offense. I would love to see these two teams play. Frankly, as someone that has supported Texas A&M for a very long time, I've always wanted Alabama to be a recurring team, for better and for worse, just because their battles have always been so interesting. These two programs are two of which that have a lot of history and interwoven ties together, but I do feel that they have risen above everyone else below their tiers in the college football playoff contenders here. Obviously, I think Georgia does have that ceiling. I think Ole Miss has that ceiling. I think Vanderbilt may not have that ceiling, but could definitely beat the top two programs. I mean, they played Alabama close until they basically just continued to give the ball away. I think Vanderbilt versus Texas A&M would just be an absolute knife fight. But right now, I don't feel like I'm trying to give you guys a hot take by this. I think this is a pretty clear tier list. I mean, if you want to be upset about maybe Mississippi State having to be up here or all these different things, but to me, this makes a lot of sense. And I think I'll be very curious, because what I want to do, and the intention of doing this, was to take the screenshot of what we're talking about right now, and then we get to the end of December, we take a look at it, because I think November for these teams right here, these teams and above, are going to be the longest month in all of college football is November for these teams up here. For here and here, I mean, real specific with them, they are done. They don't care. These teams are just hoping to have some sort of life or hope, more specifically South Carolina and Mississippi State. Arkansas is already looking for a head coach. Then you have Kentucky. They're looking for a basketball start date. And then these teams are just either asking to be knocked off or be done, or maybe they pull off and play their best football this month. These two just make it and survive. But with that in mind, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, this was the Stadium Pulse. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to even check in and watch the show. You don't even have to leave a like at this time. It means a lot for you guys to even look at the show. I put in a ton of effort into it, and I want to continue that for seasons to come. So with that in mind, guys, I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching. Check out all the other shows that Kretschmann Media pulls off, and stick around. If you like college football content, like, logically, this makes sense. Just hit the big red subscribe button so that you could see this glorious mustache pop up more and more. So I will see you guys on Sunday at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern for the reaction show of week 9 or 10 of the college football season. So I will see you guys then.